Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tigers SRD Live. And of course, you listen to the podcast here at MotorCityBengals.com and SportsRadioDetroit.com. I'm Ray Hill, alongside Miss Chris Brown and Huper. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and Stitchler. And last week, I just realized when we did the live show, I didn't read the questions out loud while we're watching the broadcast. So I'll make sure that the experience is a lot more smoother this time around. So we're just still working out the kinks. But nevertheless, right now we're watching the West Michigan Whitecaps take on the Lake County Captains, which is the Cleveland Indians affiliate. It is right now the Captains have the bases loaded, full count here in the sixth inning.
This is high leverage moment, tying run at the plate. 3-2 count.
See, Angel Reyes pitching for the Angel Reyes. Let's see here. And
he's got a little bit of a long arm action there, but maybe that adds some deception. I don't know.
So, Raj, are you old enough to remember Karnak on Johnny Carson?
Yeah, I do remember.
That's all you were doing. You were supplying the answers, and everybody out there was trying to intuit the question, like Karnak.
Yeah, I was going to put when he put the envelope in front of his head?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. So, and he walks him, so they walk in. So, coming up today, we're going to be talking about the mock drafts that's come out. It's mock draft season, so the draft it's still kind of ways away. It's July 11th this year. Usually the draft is, when is usually the draft, Chris? It feels like
it's usually the first or second week of June.
Okay. Yeah, so it's cool. It's a Sunday night
series.
Yeah, and now it's a Sunday night. It's a Sunday night thing, and I don't like what I was talking to Eper before you got on. I think that the MLB will find a way to blow it though, because it's not going to be the NFL with the pageantry and all that. So I think that either way, I think hopefully this is a opportunity for MLB to do good production on the draft night and make it exciting for everybody. So, but coming up today, we're going to be talking. The Tigers lost today 5-2. Lost now 7 out of last 10 against the Cleveland Ball Club, and the series coming up against the Yankees. We'll be talking also as well a little bit about some of the crazy plays today, including with the Cubs and the Pirates. That was insane. And a little bit more of the Tigers, a couple injuries. We saw today that Victor Reyes was come back in the game after it looked like he strained an oblique after a swing. And we'll also highlight some guys who's hot right now hitting in the minor leagues a little bit. But first things first, today the Tigers were getting no hit, and thanks to Jonathan Scope, they were able to not get no hit. And it was a game. This was a series that, again, this is why Cleveland, you can never count out the Indians out of anything. They just have so much pitching, and Beaver was dealing, and it looked kind of hopeless for a little while. And then, you got tomorrow, you got Garrett Cole against Casey Mize, who's pitched better as of late. He's had a really good May, but it's Garrett Cole who comes in with an ERA of 1.81. But impressions today, I mean, the Tigers seem like they had, despite the losing week, could have been worse, I guess.
I suppose it could always be worse. That's one thing I've learned, especially being a Michigan football fan. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things. I feel sort of like we were fooled a little bit by the Tigers playing well for a couple of weeks there. Hey, good job, Angel Reyes. And I think it's easy to when that happens, it's easy kind of to forget that this is still a really awful baseball team and a poorly constructed baseball team. And you go out and get owned by Shane Bieber. There's no real shame in that, honestly. I mean, he was just lights out today. But you also see them. I mean, they had to scratch out a win yesterday. AJ Hinch had to have Jake Rogers sack bunt. That's sacrilegious to AJ Hinch. He didn't sack bunt an entire season with Houston, but you got to do what you got to do to get the win. And this is what you do with an offense that can't really get stuff done. So yeah, it could have been worse, but I don't know.
I have a feeling that the whole season is going to have those stretches of misery that we all put up with in April, and then that little 10-game little burst of competence because a few things bounced their way, and then they settled into what they've done this week. It hasn't been miserable, but they played just well enough to lose, and I that's probably the kind of team that they are. and that probably adds up to about 62 wins when it's all said and done. But you're right. I mean, when you see a matchup of Bieber on the docket, you know that he overmatches at least 6 or 7 of the guys in the lineup every day. So runs are going to be scarce. They're going to have to scratch out a 2-1 win if they're going to win today, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and you look at yesterday's 1-0 game, and you kind of examine it a little. If you micro-examine it a little bit too, where you're encouraged by the starting pitching. I mean, the starting pitching has been better the last few weeks. The Chris Fetter difference is his effect has been there, and you're seeing relievers stepping up a little bit more. To Arena yesterday looked like he left the game with looked like a forearm tight. Was it a forearm tightness?
Forearm cramp, I think they called it, which is better than tightness, I guess, when we're talking arm injury euphemisms.
It's short-term tightness is a cramp. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But, I mean, you're encouraged yesterday by the bullpen, who allowed 1 hit yesterday with between Cisnero, Fulmer, and Soto. And, I mean, even with the walk by Soto, you're still encouraged by the heat he's bringing. But then another step, too, is like Terry Skubal, who just – all he's starting to do now is throwing the changeup more, adding that to his mix. So he's got his fastball, he's got his slider, he's got that split finger knuckle pitch, and in all of May he was just throwing the changeup more, and that's been more and more. It's almost around 22% per start, and it's made him a different pitcher. His walks have been reduced, and he's striking out more.
Yeah, I saw somebody. I know it's a Twitter commenter. I don't know exactly who it was, but they were like, "Hey, I think Chris Castellani had talked about how." Or maybe it was Scott Bentley. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. But somebody said, hey, Skubal's really close. You could feel it. He's getting lots of swings and misses now. You see it. And somebody's like, does it remind you of Verlander when he was young, racking up high pitch counts and getting strikeouts? And I didn't think that was right because, as I recall, young Verlander actually didn't get a ton of strikeouts, at least like 2006 Verlander. He had the stuff. But his strikeout rate was like 6 or 7 per 9. It reminds me more of like Max Scherzer, young Max Scherzer with the Tigers, who would rack up these ungodly pitch counts, but also put up double-digit strikeout numbers. And I don't know if people even remember because he's evolved into such a great pitcher. There was like a long time where it's like, hey, when is Max Scherzer going to get his first complete game? Because he couldn't ever get it into like the 9th inning. And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit of that from Skubal, where the stuff is there. He just needs to learn how to harness it more and go deeper into games.
Yeah, and Uper, I don't know what you saw. I bet it was encouraged by his last start. It seems like, too, the fastball velocity is up a little bit, and he's able to kind of sequence better.
Yes, completely agree. He's changing speeds a bit. You can see that. The location is better. He's even the whole time he's been generating the swings and misses. That's all going to play. I think people forget he's in month 2 of his second season. He's still a young guy. He doesn't have a long minor league track record to fall back on. He's still on his way building his career. So we're seeing some good and some bad, but I'm encouraged. Even on some of his bad games, he's not getting pummeled for 8 runs in 2 innings. It's more like he went 5 and he gave up 3. A couple of them are homers. And that's okay. In today's game, he's getting better. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, and they definitely needed that. I mean, like I said, I could live without. Can I live with more offense? Sure, but I mean, right now you can see the encouraging signs of the offense. But then you see some of the things that I don't know if you guys caught what Al Avila said over the yesterday. I think it was yesterday on a Zoom call. So yeah, I'll tee that up for you, Uber. It's one of those things where a lot of the fans were like, "Really, Al? Come on." The defense has been bad, but some of the I don't know, Uber. You want to go ahead and let's talk about his comments a little bit. Those comments were just pure Al Avila gold.
I was drawn to the searching for mainstays. I believe that's close to a quote from his talk there. And I wanted to say, Al, you can stop. You can stop the search. Okay, the search is pretty much over on the 26-man roster. There's about 4 or 5 guys that are going to be mainstays. The rest of them are flotsam and jetsam that you can just, bring in, bring out. No big deal. Stop searching. We know Jacoby Jones is not a mainstay. We know Victor Reyes is probably not a mainstay. He's a bit part. Okay. So don't talk to us about that. We know the season is about what the season is. They're going to lose. They're going to get draft choices. And at some point, they're going to either hit and build a core and bring in free agents and make trades that build the core of a winner. But to say that we're searching for that diamond in the rough with this group, I mean, come on. Once you get past Jamer Candelario, there's really not a guy in that lineup who is going to be a starter on the next playoff team. So you can search for mainstays all you want, but that search is going to be short.
Yeah, and we had a comment that came in from Cam
Marcano.
Thank you, Chris. Avila is trying to justify the unjustifiable. That's a good way to put it. Absolutely, that is dead on with that.
That's the old trying to do some explaining. Ned Flanders.
All right, Carlos. Sorry about that, man. My bad. Yeah, I'm just sometimes when it comes to names, man, I'm running like miles a minute. Sorry about that, man. But it's one of those things where every time I've seen a comment, every time I've seen anything, I was just like, it's a typical kind of like, what else do you have to say? What else are you gonna do, kind of thing. And there's really nothing else. I mean, it's the same old. And a lot of fans are they're over it. They are really over it. And the biggest takeaway I have from what he said yesterday is that he's singing a lot, or was the Talking Heads song? You're saying what's the trying to think of the lyrics of the Talking Heads song. You're talking a lot. You're talking a lot, but nothing makes sense. You're just my lips are. Anyways, he's just he's talking. What did you say?
I was just saying, you sure it's that we're on a road to nowhere?
Well, it's a road. It is road to nowhere. But there's when my lips are. He's talking about you're talking. You're not making a lot of sense. You're not saying anything of consequence, and I don't know how I butchered David Byrne's lyrics, but at either rate, there's a whole lot of nothing came out of that, and so, I mean, nothing's changed. So, I don't know I guess I'm missing something. Did you guys find anything worth of value there?
I didn't actually hear the comments. I didn't know, so I haven't. Well, I have to go listen to those.
He also, he indicated that it sounds like he's in favor of, and the tenor of it, he thinks that the 7-inning doubleheaders are here to stay. Mm-hmm. And, and some of the other rules that we've seen that, we're not the ghost runner and so on is here to stay. Sounds like he's in favor of it. I mean, he didn't really go too in depth on it, but it certainly didn't sound like it's going to be something that's over with in October here.
Yeah, that's one that I fully expect to stay. I think there might be some pushback about the runner on second and extras, but I think that might stay too. It feels like whenever the players allow anything, it's just there for good now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but
it's kind of like that telephone tax. They put it to $18.94 and they still charge it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's a comment exactly what he said too yesterday. Quote, "We feel good about the progress. We don't feel good about the wins and losses where we're at right now." Well, thank you, Captain Obvious.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Carlos said it right. It's there's not much he can say.
Yeah.
Right now, when even after a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks of playing solid baseball, you still have the worst offense in all of baseball, at least by WAR. And you're still among the worst teams in baseball. I think, they had climbed out of last place. At one point they would have, if the season had ended, I think they would have been picking 5th or 6th in the draft, but I think they're probably back down to 2nd or 3rd now. And the run differential is still 2nd or 3rd worst. So
Second.
Yeah.
I just looked at it. They're at -64. The Pirates are at -84 now. They've bolted way ahead.
Yeah. The Pirates had that epic beatdown. Who was it against? Was it the Braves?
Yeah, they gave up a 20 spot.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
All right. Well, it's time.
It's time for Rogelio and Chris to go inside the numbers.
All right. Uber, what's your inside number this evening?
My first, it's 0.3 and then 56. So the 0.3 is the aggregate outfield WAR of the New York Yankees. And the 56 is the WRC Plus one, Brett Gardner. And I watched quite a bit of the Yankees Blue Jays doubleheader today. They're finishing up right now. First off, Alek Manoah. Oh my goodness, impressive. I mean, like pitch by pitch, it's like, ooh, wow. So something to watch there for the Blue Jays. But the Yankee outfield, they lost Aaron Hicks to wrist surgery. They don't have a center fielder, and their outfield production is pretty bad. Now, Brett Gardner's faking it as a center fielder again. I watched him throw a ball today from center field, and I think the only person in the world that thinks he has a major league arm is Johnny Damon. I mean, Johnny Damon thinks he has a cannon, but it was brutal. So I was wondering, in my mind, I always think, well, how could the Tigers exploit that? Sadly, we don't really have a center fielder to give them. But I wondered if Robbie Grossman is someone who's played some center field, if he could fake it in that ballpark for, half a season. And is that a spot? If I were the Yankees, I would love to patch a 375 on base percentage in front of Stanton and Judge. But the Yankees have they're going to be having to make some moves. Maybe they're going to think a lot bigger than a Robbie Grossman. Maybe they go after Chris Bryant, make him an outfielder because he plays there part-time now. I don't know what that's going to be, but I think the Tigers, the Yankees are probably going to need pitching too. They could try to package together some kind of big deal there as we get deeper into June and July.
All right.
That's a good. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, they seem like they would be a fit for Chris Bryant, I think.
All right. What is your inside number, Chris?
So I actually had two before I settled on one that wasn't even related to the other one. So I will just say my first ones were 13, which was Shane Bieber's swings and misses today on his knuckle curve, which is the most by any pitcher on that pitch this year. And then the second was 115.3, which was Jonathan Scope's exit velocity on his home run, which is the second hardest ball he's hit in his career. And he becomes just the third Detroit Tigers hitter in the regular season to top 115 in exit velocity. But those aren't the numbers I was picking. My number is .374, which is Harold Castro's ex-WOBA, his expected weighted on base average. We may need some context for that, but it's basically it's Baseball Savant's version of weighted on base average, calculated based on walks and strikeouts and the quality of contact according to Savant. So essentially exit velocity and launch angle. And so Castro's batting average right now is 333, even after today. Though based on his contact, they think it should be 342, which is, just a little bit closer. But here's the strange one I wasn't expecting. His slugging is just 345 right now, basically no extra base hits. Mm-hmm. But Savant thinks it should be 473. They think based on how he's hitting the ball, his slugging should be 128 points higher. And that's the 8th largest gulf among all hitters in baseball this year. I'm not here to say that he's suddenly going to start hitting for power, but if it does happen, that might explain why. And then just for some more context about what a 374 ex-WOBA means, that is 1 point higher than Jose Ramirez so far this year, and 1 point behind Nelson Cruz. It's top 50. So I don't know. I've made fun of the beat writers seem to love Harold Castro.
Hitting Harold Castro.
Yeah, and I could never tell if it's
sarcasm.
Or just weird or what. But I mean, if he's going to hit 340, then sure, play him. And he walked twice today, so what the hell, man? Just keep playing him, I guess.
Yeah, there's
always
people
room for a dude hitting 330.
Yeah,
there's people who want him to start as shortstop.
Well, he can fill in at shortstop. He plays 8 positions. He's just not great at any of them.
Yeah, he's got he's like a 1 double, correct? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But Savant thinks he should have many more doubles.
So when they say something like that, are they just saying that just by happenstance, he's got a couple of balls that should have rolled up the gap and didn't, or rolled down the line into the corner?
That's a good question.
And instead, they're just happening to be going straight out to the right fielder, or.
I assume that's what they're talking about. Maybe it's it's hard for me to figure out. I think maybe yeah, it's just the combination. It could even be balls that were caught.
Yeah.
But they thought that the number of times he hit a ball with a certain exit velocity and launch angle, like, hey, if that's 30 feet to the left, it's a double or a triple. I don't know. I mean, it's something I haven't really dug super deep into, but I probably should if I'm going to be talking about it on the show.
Does he even have a warning track out?
That's a good question. Well, let me go ahead and see the farthest ball hit by.
He might not even have track power, which is pretty cool to be hit 330.
Yeah. But hey, Rod, you can go ahead with your number, and I will look and find to see how far Harold Castro has hit the ball this year.
All right. So my inside number this week stems from the number one. It's 180 and over 1,000. And that would be the OPS plus of one Nicholas Castellanos and OPS of over 1,000. He's batting right now 355. He's got a slash line of 355, 414, and 663 with 12 home runs and 30 RBIs. He's already got close to his home run total last year, which was in 60 games. He had 14. He's almost there already. He's on a tear. And I'm bringing this up because I think it was Kean, Tiger Minor League Tracker, was talking about his numbers, and I saw the swing from Jules post a swing on Twitter earlier, and Castellanos has been a beast. And it's just one of those things where you look at and just kind of like former Tigers just continuing to haunt the team. And I'm not doing this just to rub it in anybody's face, but it's just his numbers are impressive. And he's doing it by just Cincinnati's been really inconsistent. They're not having enough pitching, but Castellanos has been a fun watch. I mean, you watched him earlier have some words with the commissioner, with the fan, and I don't know. It's making Cincinnati Reds baseball exciting, and that's something that I wouldn't mind having that bat back in the lineup. So,
no question. I'll tell you, when it comes to the term plate coverage, I mean, his picture should be next to that in the dictionary, in the encyclopedia, whatever. The plate coverage of his swing is beautiful to watch. He can take that ball to any field, and he's just become a smart hitter too. You can tell that guy's put his time in, and fun to watch. You're right. I've always been a fan of Castellanos, and it's kind of cool to see him take these next steps in his career.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Castellanos was my good today. So,
sorry.
No, it's fine. This is why we do this to make a scramble. But I will say this: that so I looked up. Harold Castro this year has hit, 9 balls more than 300 feet. As a matter of fact, he's got 14 balls that are hit more than 260 feet, and all of them are outs. Every single one. Yeah, he's got one that's 400 foot fly out, 376, 368. So yeah, they've got expected batting averages on a bunch of these outs that range from 069, so that must have been basically a can of corn, to 566 that was a line out with a slugging of 1,050. So yeah, basically every time he hits the ball deep, it's caught.
Well, he's in the modern day Wee Willie Keeler. Hit him where they
ain't. There you go. Hit him where they ain't. Yeah, that's some see here against Kansas City. He hit a ball 363 feet, had an expected batting average of 591, and it was an out. So that's a tough break.
Hitting Harold Castro. All right. So no, and it's one of those, especially because you're right. It is kind of hard to tell if the fans are being serious or the beat writers are being serious or not. But a lot of fans like him. I mean, it's just like they look at batting average. People are obsessed with batting average, but they don't. It's funny to me when every time they talk about that, or like the ever popular, why is Jacob Robson not up? And so it's like you have to. As a 26-year-old, there's 5 or 6 26-year-olds in AA. So there's
yeah. Excuse me.
Well, I think people, when the team is 18, 19, and 31 or whatever it is right now, people latch on to bright spots. And Harold Castro is fun. It is fun to watch him dink and dunk those singles around. I enjoy it. Do I think he's someone who's going to start for their next playoff team? No. If he is, I think that's probably a problem because I doubt he's going to be a long-term 340 hitter. But For now, for what they have, it's cool.
Yeah, Harold Castro. You know what Harold Castro reminds me of? He's that guy that you when you play pool, he uses that tool, that bridge tool.
Yeah,
The bridge.
there you
He's
go.
one of those guys, the bridge tool. He's the guy he's the bridge tool for the Tigers. He's the living bridge tool. And tool, sometimes tools are used in a derogatory term. I'm not using it in a derogatory term in this case. But he could put the ball wherever he wants. It's almost like it's like a cue, and just like, and it's the same. He's a nicer version of Victor Reyes, as another word. Somebody described that too. So, but
I said he's the popular form of Victor Reyes.
That's what it was. Thank you. But that's what it was. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, you're right. That was what it was. He's the one that's going to be the one that gets all the girls in high school, and at some point Victor Reyes is going to shed that nerd label at some point. So, but anywho, now it's time for our second segment of the evening. Before we get to the mock draft, because I do want to talk mock drafts this evening. The Tigers, it is mock draft season. It's that time of the year that everyone loves, and we get this. It's the lottery pick for the Tigers. It's the big time. It's how people look at the Lions draft. So
The good.
Oh, that's good.
The bad.
Oh, that's bad.
And the ugly.
all right, Chris, what is I took your good, so again, I apologize about that. So,
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's just fine because I was gonna basically say what you said about Castellanos, other than, and I was gonna try to, I guess, take one because I've never been a huge Castellanos fan. I just never been a believer that his offense was sustainable, generally speaking. But yeah, I'm wrong.
No, but by the way,
at least so far this year. So
Steve Butts chimes in with a quote. I think Harold Castro appeals to the pre-analytics baseball archetype of a guy. And that, you know what, Steve, that's a really good point. That's a good way to put it. Absolutely. Spot on.
yeah, well, I mean, it is weird. You hear a lot of the complaints about baseball right now about there's not enough guys who put the ball in play. And it's like, you would think that these people complaining just want like a team full of Harold Castros, which would be fascinating to watch. It really would be. There'd be like 0 home runs and not a lot of traffic on the bases other than singles, but it would be kind of fun. And I've got a silly proposal for getting more offense, but we'll save that for some other time. But I was just gonna say, switching up on the fly, my good. How about Max Muncy for the Dodgers? And I wonder how long it is. One of these days we'll have to rank these, like the sort of found money players. People remember Max Muncy was with the Dodger or with the A's and didn't do anything, and he just got signed as a minor league free agent, I believe, with the Dodgers, like they did with Justin Turner or JD Martinez, Jose Bautista, these kind of guys who come out of nowhere. Maybe Adolis Garcia, but Max Muncy right now this year is hitting 285, which is great for him because he's always been more of an on-base percentage guy. But he's still getting on base. He's got a 21.2% walk rate, which is the highest in baseball. And he's got 10 home runs. So you got a guy with a 174 weighted runs created plus playing infield. He's not built like a traditional second baseman, but he's kind of the archetype for that new shift-aided second baseman. It'll be interesting to see if they outlaw the shift, what becomes of somebody like him. But he could just play first base. But of course, the Dodgers have Cody Bellinger to do that too. But yeah, he's just he's 30 now. And you wonder how much longer he can do this, but he's at 2.5 WAR right now, FWAR, after 10 WAR in his first 2 years with the Dodgers. He was kind of down last year when he only hit 192, but he seems to be back, and it's just like, man, it'd be nice, just find a random 5 WAR player on the scrap heap would be cool for the Tigers.
It's amazing. It's almost like he does not consider swinging until he has 2 strikes. I mean,
yeah, and it works for him. Not everybody can do that, but it's working for him.
All right, what's your bad, Chris?
My bad is Jorge Solaire. And I don't know. I was checking to see if I'd done this before, and I don't think so, but maybe somebody else did. But yeah, he's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum for Castellanos this year. He's currently ranks dead last in WAR at negative 1.0 because he's batting just 171, 253, 311. He's striking out 32% of the time, which is actually down from last year, but it's up like 6 or 7% from his career year in 2019. and his isolated power is as low as it's been since 2017. He's 29 now, which is a little older than I thought, but still not like super young. And 2 years ago, he hit 48 home runs. And this is what is really kind of funny. If you look at his home run totals, his single season home run totals, and for, they're for a number of reasons, he's not played like full 160 game seasons in many times in his career. But here are his single season home run totals: 5, 10, 12, 2, 9, 48, 8, 4.
Hello, Brady.
Yeah, I mean it's or like I remember the one year Adrian Beltre hit like 49 home runs, but then he turned out to be Hall of Famer. It looks like Solaire has been kind of unlucky, just like we were talking about with Harold Castro, with that expected slugging is like 150 points higher than it has been. I mean, maybe that's just a product of playing in the Kauffman Stadium, but I don't think it's over for him, but it's just kind of ugly for them. He was kind of a guy that I thought would be a key piece for that offense going forward, and ugly right now.
I watch a fair amount of Royals baseball because it's on TV here in Des Moines. He's the element type. That series where the Tigers swept them seemed like he came up with 2 men on base at least once or twice every game, and he was the Tigers MVP in that series because he was just whiffing on everything. So yeah, he's really struggling.
And my ugly is pitchers named Holland. So you got Greg Holland and of course Derek Holland. Derek gave up a run today and has now allowed 14 earned runs in 11 innings, which is not ideal for a reliever. Meanwhile, Greg ranks last in FWAR among relievers, qualified relievers this year. What's kind of interesting about all that is that Greg Holland's raw numbers don't look too awful. He's got a 4.24 ERA, which again is not great for a reliever, but his FIP is 6.11, which is worse. Meanwhile, Derek Holland's ERA is 11.45, but his FIP is 5.04, so it's actually lower than Greg Holland's. Using these small samples is always tough to tell with relievers, but it's not a great time to be named Holland. And I was trying to think of other MLB players with European country names. And
was there Spain or Portugal out there?
Ty France
I had. Domingo Herman is kind of cheating, I think.
Yeah.
I was trying to think.
Mark Portugal.
There you go.
There we go. Former Giants pitcher. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Steve Lichtenstein. I don't know.
I like it.
I don't know.
That's good stuff. All right. So, there you go. That's the former lefty, right? Yeah. Steve was mentioning Al Holland.
Oh, Al Holland.
Yes.
Yeah, he was part of the '81 championship team, I believe, as well. Yeah, former. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he had a weird lineup too. I think he came from the side. He was a lefty. I know he had some weirdly cool facial hair too, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Steve, if you're listening, so all right. But all right, Uper, what is your good and bad and ugly this week?
Well, my good was I wanted to give a shout out to Akil Baddoo because, well, number one, let's just go back a little bit in this podcast to what I said about Al Avila. Stop searching for mainstays because they're not there. I let me amend that. Akil Baddoo, as a Rule 5 player without a lot of experience, at times looks the part. So, let's hold off on that decision because I think why I want him to be the good right now is he has really steadied himself. He had that wondrous first week where everybody was excited, including us, because it was really fun to watch. And then he did the predictable slide where I think he was hitting under 200 for a while in total. And that was fine. He was striking out a lot, and that's to be expected. But he has really come around. Right now, his OPS plus is at 133. He's the slash is 245, 327, 510. We could stop there. If he could hit that slash for his career, that's a productive player. And he may go farther than that. So I think the signs are good. I think he needs to play. I don't need to see Jacoby Jones play. I'll be honest. If they want to play him against some tough lefties, that's fine. But I think Baddoo should play and play the vast majority of the time until he proves he shouldn't. because with what he's doing now, the way he's rebounded in May, he's a useful player. It's pretty fun to see.
All right.
Yeah, I not to interrupt, but yeah, I wrote a story about that today, about it, and a big thing about what we've seen this month is his good at bats have started resulting in walks. Where is in April he had 29 strikeouts and 2 walks, even though he seemed to be putting together good at bats pretty frequently. He just wasn't getting on base, and now he is.
Yep.
And he's not hitting. He hasn't had a home run yet this month, but he's had a couple balls that were basically like a foot away from being a homer, or he hit the triple the other day to basically dead center, 419 feet. That's going to be a home run in most places. Yeah, I think he's adjusted, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about his future still.
Yeah, he's still a long way from being someone we're going to count on down the road, but it's the signs are positive. My bad, Brady Singer. He got pounded today by the Rays. His ERA bumped up to 4.91, and I was just thinking, it's how a lot of fans, us, a lot of people jump to conclusions, and we just think back to last year when Casey Mize was struggling and didn't look great. And we, would see Singer on the mound for the Royals looking pretty solid. And they're both out of that same draft class. And at one point, Brady Singer was the consensus number 1 draft pick in the preseason before the college season started. Everybody had him there. And we're thinking, oh my goodness! There are definitely people making those comments like Tigers got the wrong guy. Now we fast forward. We're 2 months into this season. Casey Mize is on the upswing, and Brady Singer looks very hittable at times. I've watched a couple of his starts, and he's a little wild at moments. And I'm sure that will it'll probably flip flop back and forth because they're both talented guys, and they're both still on the ascension of their careers. But I think it's been a good lesson of not to jump to good quick conclusions based on 5 or 6 starts from anybody. And I think Singer's I think his FIP and his xFIP are still lower than Mize's but his ERA is quite a bit higher. So ugly. This is a little off the beaten path, but I think it was a tweet from Joe Posnanski, and it really kind of made me laugh about the White Sox. The White Sox had a woman named Loretta Micel. They named a lounge after her because in the stadium, because she worked concessions at Comiskey for 60 years, dedicated her life to the White Sox, right? And they named this lounge after her during the 2005 World Series, no less. A massive moment in their franchise history. They elected to recognize her, which is great because 60 years, she deserves it. They hire LaRussa, and for whatever reason, they decide that 16 years of Loretta's Lounge is enough, and we need to honor LaRussa, which is with his own lounge. Is now LaRussa's Lounge. They've gotten rid of Loretta altogether to make it LaRussa's Lounge, which, is kind of fitting for an old soak like Tony to have his place where they're selling a few brews. I get it. But but this is the best part, or the worst part, depending how you want to look at it. The family, maybe they're outraged, maybe they're not. I haven't seen that story, part of it yet. I'm sure they are in some ways. But they wanted the sign that said Loretta's Lounge, because now they have big LaRussa's Lounge in big letters. And so they want this sign as kind of a keepsake, and the White Sox had thrown it away.
Oh, no. Jeez.
They tossed it out.
Dad, this is the garbage you give me?
It's in a dumpster somewhere. So that was really, I thought, what Tony La Russa had done in his White Sox return to merit that lounge was, not that anybody cares when lounges are named in a stadium, I guess, but it's just kind of a tone-deaf story from the White Sox. I thought it was kind of ugly to do away with that part of history a little bit.
I feel like that's the tone deaf is the middle of their name. It's just like it's just a nonstop tone deaf decision after decision after decision this year. They're just So wow, that the Loretto that story was crazy, and so well, all right. Well, my good this week is the part to do with Joey Wendell of the Tampa Bay Rays, who's already been putting up a 2.2 WAR. And Chris, you're talking about guys. You can add this list. You can add this to the list of guys that who and how they picked him up, and they picked him up in a trade in 2017. And he's a guy who just, if you look at Joey Wendell, you don't think, I don't like, to me, it doesn't seem like he's not a household name, but he's starting to get there. And the Rays have won 11 in a row until May 24th, and then the winning streak ended. And it's one of those things where the Rays just keep rolling on, and they've just been dominating. And the only team they haven't really figured out is the Red Sox. They're 0-3 against the Red Sox. But Joey Wendell, is he a household name to you guys both? Let me ask you this real quick, that question.
I've certainly heard of him before, but I don't pay much attention to him. I was trying to think where he came from, but it looks like they got him from Oakland, but he was actually drafted by Cleveland.
Yep.
I'd forgotten. But
You went to Oakland University, right? Is that what you mean?
And the other
no, Oakland A's.
Was it Brasso that went to Oakland?
Russo, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I watched, the Rays. I've been a fan of theirs for a long time, since probably 07. It's just really incredible how they do it. They don't care what anybody thinks of how they're doing it. And they bring in these no-name guys and they plug them into the right spot. They identify that one or two skills that they have to contribute to a winning baseball team, and they etch it together every year.
It's fast. The other part of my good too that I wanted to get to was Alek Manoah, who was the Blue Jays starter on the first game of a doubleheader, and he went out and just shoved today. Pitched 6 scoreless innings, allowed 2 hits on 2 walks, while striking out 7, and just went out there. He threw, of the 88 pitches he threw, 60 were strikes. And Chris, I think you brought this pitcher up before. I remember on one of the draft shows discussed this guy before.
Yeah, Manoah was the guy that I liked.
Yeah,
in that draft. I didn't think, what year was that? 2019, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of. It was a tough one because he was kind of a bigger body dude, and it was like, I don't know if this is going to go backwards on him. And it was like, okay, he's got a fastball and a slider. Does he have anything else? And it looks like it's not going to matter because his fastball and his slider are just nasty. And we saw him pitch against the Tigers this year. Sort of saw him because remember Toronto didn't have. You had to get like that secret center field camera to see the Toronto games in spring training. But yeah, he I think he struck out the side against the Tigers, and yeah, it's a nasty upper 90s fastball and a great slider. And I swear I made some joke somewhere about Manoah Blanc, which was like a very like small targeted shoe baseball joke. And I know but I couldn't find where I put it. So maybe it was just in my head, because apparently there's a shoe called like Manoah Blahnik or something like that, right?
Manoah Blanc, yeah.
Yeah, and Manoah Blanc is close enough for me. So there you go.
I watched quite a bit of that start today. It was impressive. It was strike after strike after strike, and that slider was a tight little nasty bugger to hit. You could see it. Now, he doesn't have a lot of experience as a pro. I mean, in the minors, he has not pitched a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep this up. But they have to be ecstatic from what they saw in start number 1 today. Because, he went into Yankee Stadium. He went right after Aaron Judge, all those guys. And it was quite an outing.
Yeah, considering, too, they have Richardson. Toronto's got some pretty good prospects in their system. And that was the one that, you weren't expecting to see. But he put up some really good numbers at AAA. And he just went out there and it was just swinging it. And so you gotta be encouraged by that they have somebody that the third or fourth best pitching prospect can go out there and shove like that. And definitely needed, because Toronto's been having some injuries and their rotation's been kind of hit up with injuries. Or I just said that. That was redundant. Sorry. But yeah, so nevertheless, my bad is something that should have been. We talked about this with the Reds about Nicholas Castellanos last week, or being the part of my inside numbers. Last Thursday, the Reds. This is where the Reds are struggling a little bit with just pitching, getting consistent pitching. They allowed 19 runs to the San Francisco Giants, 19-4 loss, and it was one of those things where you're looking at the Giants are one of the best teams in all of baseball, but 19 runs was the highest output of the season for them, and just kind of magnifies what's going on with the Reds. And you look at the again, they can hit the Reds right now are sitting 4 games under 500. And you wonder if they just had a little bit of pitching, where would they be with this offense? I mean, they have some pretty good offense, but the 19 runs last week just stood out to me as a bad stretch of baseball for them. And my ugly this week, and it's something to do with a very simple thing that happened today, or it was yesterday. Mickey Calloway has been kicked out of baseball until next year, I believe. And the reason why it's ugly is because it took a little long for them to investigate it. I'm not going to preachy about it, but it's something that definitely is a black eye for baseball. I saw that Roberto Alomar Jr. a couple weeks ago was also taken off everything of existence. But Mickey Calloway, this was kind of something that should have been they were doing their investigation. They did due diligence. Oh, nice catch. Nice catch there by Brian. What was it? Is that Packard?
Is that Brian Packard? Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Must be awfully cold out there.
Yeah, he's got the whole thing. The temperature dropped this evening about 55 degrees. So if you're listening on the podcast, we'll have the YouTube link. We'll have that on there. So that's a nice catch there. But yeah, so that was my ugly. Those two incidences that baseball's finally taking care of it. It's just another bad thing that people discuss, and yeah. So
can I do a supplemental ugly real quick that I just discovered? Well, if you see me looking down, I apologize. I'm trying to put together the every night for the Tigers minor league report, we put that little thing that says who did what during the game. Yeah. Just trying to do that right now, so it's out there. I like to get it out as soon as the last game is over. But as I was looking down, I noticed that the Mud Hens gave up 5 runs in the 8th inning tonight.
Ooh.
And what's kind of ugly about it is 4 of them go to Buck Farmer.
No.
Yeah, so I'm looking. Buck Farmer came in and got a ground out and a single, a strikeout, but a wild pitch. So 2 men on. Single, scores, makes it 2-1 Toledo. Single to load the bases, mound visit. Then he gives it a double. Only a 1-run double somehow. Then Foley comes in and walks a batter, then gives up a 3-run double to TJ Friedel. So it was Jason Foley and Buck Farmer combining to kind of blow the game for the Mud Hens tonight, unfortunately. And I just feel bad. You feel bad for Buck Farmer because it's, he was a solid reliever for a couple of years there, and he's going down to Toledo, and it's not getting any better for him, unfortunately. And yeah, hopefully he can figure something out eventually.
Yeah, hopefully that's.
You wonder if it's just that he just hit that age where he lost a little, or is he hurt, or what's going on?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't shock me if it's just like you said, like just that age where he lost a little, and just randomly his velocity was down last year. And I've talked about the same sort of thing with Joe Jimenez, where at a certain point your body just can't do what it once did because of whatever, tightening of ligaments or whatever, and there's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. It's cruel, this world of ours, and gravity and so forth and so on.
It is Farmer's just not having a good year, and that's just it is unfortunate. So it's time to talk about before we get out of here. Let's want to talk about the mock draft. Some mock drafts are coming out, and Chris, I'll let you kind of lead this because next week we're going to be starting at MCB mock draft. It's going to be draft season around our site, and we'll be hitting the draft pretty hard. I'll be looking at some pictures, and you'll be looking at there'll be all sorts of stuff. We'll be rolling that out next week, but according to the Jim Callis mock draft, you got the Tigers picking Jordan Lawler, the shortstop out of Dallas, Jesuit Prep. So, but also maybe might go with Brady House. But Chris, go ahead. What are the Tigers looking at right here?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think Yoop has been the one that's been updating us with all the mock draft results. But yeah, I mean that one you haven't heard the Tigers linked to Jordan Lawler as much. We've heard a lot of linking them to Marcelo Meyer out in California and Brady House, the shortstop, third baseman down in Georgia. And that one just feels like, hey, other people are in on. I don't know who Callis had going second in that mock. Do you remember?
Yeah, he had
Later.
Jack Leiter. Yep.
Lighter. Yeah. So I do wonder if that were to happen. I mean, I think the Tigers would probably, if they were to rank the players that they want, it would probably be Meyer first. But then after that, I don't really know. I don't know if they are faced with, oh, geez. Sorry, my phone decided to listen to me. And so it's been, can you see this? You probably can't see that, but it's dictating. Oh. Everything it's still doing it. I can't stop it.
Technology is taking over.
Yeah.
In any event, I mean, if Leiter and Meyer were gone, it would come down to Lawler and House. And I think, just based on what we're hearing, I suspect that they would go House over Lawler there. It's not what I would do, but maybe that's just because they didn't think Lawler would be there. But I don't know. What do you think? You pay attention to this pretty good?
Yeah. It's interesting. I've always trusted Jim Callis. I really have. I think he has a good track record. So when he says that I think he's plugged in when he's saying that they're looking at Meyer and Leiter as their top two, and he has them gone. I think as you hear enough smoke, I mean, the Baseball America is hearing House to the Tigers. You can just read between the lines there with Callis, and he has House. He seems like the kind of guy with the power that they would kind of gravitate toward. I'm okay with it if it's elite power. If they really believe he has elite power and he even has an outside shot at sticking that shortstop, that could be the way to go. They probably didn't expect Lawler to be there. He's a much different kind of guy. But I think for their system, I really believe they want to walk away with one of those premier high school shortstops. You know, there's about 4 of them, maybe 5, depending on how much you like a couple at the back end. To plug into their system that they just don't have. So it's going to be really an interesting month here as we kind of zig and zag to the draft and see what these guys are able to hear from the different organizations.
Yeah, one of the things, like, you watch Brady House and you understand what's so enticing about him. He's got this tremendous power, his bat speed. He's wow. He's got a plus arm. I think he also pitched and would be up to 94, 95 at times. Yep. And he's more athletic than you would think. He's built like a Greek god. He's like 6'3" and chiseled, and so that's why people are projecting he'll move to third base just because he's so big. But he's more athletic than you think. The issue I have is there's questions about the hit tool, and we talked before. Like, I don't want the Tigers taking anybody with questions about their hit tools because they've got this track record now. They've proven now that they. Look at Ray Riviera out here, Ichiro.
He went the foul ball is the right field. This foul is the left. I'm telling you, man, it's.
I know
he's pumped. I mean, I know that he was talking to James Shipman about this earlier that he might just still be a role guy, but it's good to see the improvement. I mean, wow, it's just anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the confidence. No, but as I say, I think there's been talk that Al Avila was down there watching Brady House, but I would like to remind people that Al Avila was also down in Georgia watching Parker Meadows a couple of years ago. And Parker Meadows has lots of interesting tools, but he's not going to hit. He can't hit with any type of authority at all. And, if the Tigers could teach him to hit, he'd be a great prospect, but I don't see it. And I just worry a little bit with Brady House. Now, maybe the early reports about him having maybe like a below average hit tool or worse aren't true, and he's improved in that regard. But that's what scares me about him. Whereas Lawler is a guy I think who has a pretty solid hit tool, one of the better hit tools overall in the class. He's a guy I watched him a bunch in the summer showcase circuits, and it was very reminiscent of Derek Jeter, the way he would pull his hands in and hit a ball hard to the opposite field, fairly frequently. And against good velocity and stuff. So he's a guy that I trust his hit tool. He's a plus runner. He's going to stick at shortstop. The question with him is the power. And some people were worried early in the year because he was striking out a fair amount in high school. But I don't know. We talked about that before, I think that we're like, what that could involve for a high schooler. Who knows?
Yeah, I think what happened there, his first 100 at bats, he had a few strikeouts. It was a little high. Then he went about 22 at bats without a strikeout, and all of a sudden, the number looked just fine. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you never know if like he's the only real run production threat for his team, and he's trying expanding the zone to try to help them win. It's tough to say, but I don't know. The one thing I keep coming back to is if Lawler and Meyer go 1-2, would the Tigers really take Brady House over Jack Leiter? If he's staring right there, that's you got to have conviction if you're taking. I mean, they're both kind risky, but man, I mean, Jack Leiter we're talking about for 6 weeks this year. He was the kind of slam dunk number one, and there are some like anybody else, cracks show up in their game. Leiter's the control and command might not be quite there. Velocity took a dip. He's gotten hit around a little bit. But still, I just it's hard for me to believe that when faced with that decision, we would pick the high school shortstop over the Vanderbilt arm.
Yeah, and here's a good one too. This is what Steve was saying. A lot of people have Pittsburgh taking the catcher from out of Louisville,
Henry Davis.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's as much fun as it is to speculate about all this stuff. What we really don't know is the signability.
Yeah,
I mean, we know all these guys are signable. But at what price? And who's going to try to do some sort of, for lack of a better term, shenanigans with their bonus pool? And that's why we talked about the one we briefly touched on the scenario where the Tigers might try to take Jackson Jobe, the prep right-hander, I believe, from Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yep.
Who some people
argue with the Rockies at 8.
At 8, yeah. Some people think he has the best stuff overall of any pitcher in the draft. And would the Tigers take him at 3 and try to save a little bit of money and then use that to get one of the shortstops, maybe not one of the top 3 or 4 shortstops, but another shortstop to fall to them in the supplemental round? I don't know. It's tough to say. There's a lot of jockeying that could still happen.
Well, the Tigers have the second biggest bonus pool.
Right.
So they definitely have the room to be aggressive and to spread cash around in later rounds to try to emulate a little bit of what they did last year in a draft that, has been mostly praised from most corners. So I could see it. I think the cap, the slot, for the third overall pick was just over $7 million. If they could find a way to save $500,000 on somebody and move that into pick 32 to bump up the value there, you could see it. I mean, and teams do that. People are already speculating the Pirates that all speculation about pick number 1 could go off the table really fast if they find the right guy who wants a bargain so they can spread cash around later. So that would be a very Piratesy move. Yeah,
I was just gonna say it fits the stereotype. And Mr. Brown at 320 Twitter said Keith Law actually hinted at Joe being an alternative to Meyer today. And look, let me just say this: the one thing I don't, Riviera is running fast. The one thing I've never thought I'd ever say that. The one thing I don't, and this just goes back to the days of Scott Moore being drafted by the Tigers. This is the development process. I mean, the reason why Riley Green's doing so well. His father's a hitting instructor. Riley Green is a pure athlete, and he's got a lot of pro instruction around him. And look, the Tigers have done better drafting. I'm not going to try to disparage what they've done the last couple of years. You're seeing some of the results right now with Kerry Carpenter right now in Double-A, just spending a short time is off to a really good start. You see Ryan Kreidler's off to a very aggressive assignment right now. Even guys like Cooper Johnson who've reworked to swing a little bit. Some of the guys that we've been watching quite a bit. Dale LaRosa got the call up today to West Michigan. I know Dave Myers just got called up to Double-A, but it looks like more like they need another body there. But still, nevertheless, there are some signs there. But at the same time, I just don't trust the Tigers developing. I'm still not there. The Tigers developing a prep shortstop unless this guy is ready, good to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and sorry if I sound like an asshole, but it's just prove me wrong.
No, I that's sorry. I was just saying that goes along with what I was saying. The Tigers have a long track record of not helping, toolsy guys learn how to hit. Cale Org, pick a name, and it's not something they've been able to do. Maybe they can now, but I'm a little bit skeptical.
in a perfect world, if you take the signings out of the bonus pool out of it, and you just went strictly on talent, I'm willing to overlook the organizational track record and bet on the talent. And if they truly believe that Brady House has, 35 home run power, and maybe the hit tool, he can keep it at 275 or 280 and be Nolan Arenado and not hit 230 or 220 and be Mark Reynolds. I think you roll with that. I think you got to trust your scouts there on what the talent level looks like, and then just trust that they're going to fulfill what you see.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a bummer now because Tigers fans were getting more and more, used to the idea and kind of embracing the idea of like, hey, Marcelo Meyer, that's a great pick at number 3, and like. And now it's like, yeah, well, everybody else is noticing that too, and he's probably going to go in the top 2. So it's kind of a bummer because, it's a guy with a pretty left-handed swing and power potential and a pretty good chance to stay at shortstop. It's not a guarantee, but
well, Keith Law still has Meyer to the Tigers.
Steve brings up a good point too. Do the Tigers have the current baseball operations have the luxury of waiting 3 to 4 years for a top pick to develop? And the answer is no, they don't. I'm sorry, you didn't mean to interrupt you, but. No, bring that up though.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they're not drafting based on their jobs at this point.
Yeah. Because then you take Henry Davis, right? If that's the case, then you take Henry Davis or
the best college hitter, the one who's going to probably move the fastest. I would think. And the one thing, I guess, Brady House could be a developmental project, but ideally, you're picking the top 5. These guys, they're going to move quickly no matter what. Like we've seen Riley Green, he's in Double-A already, knocking on the door. Alek Manoah, 2019 pick in the majors, something like that. If you're picking in the top, the guys are going to move quickly. So, yeah, man, I don't think it would be smart for them to like really go after developmental projects. But I think for the most part, the top 5 talents aren't going to be that too intensive. It's the Brady House the one that scares me is all.
I just wonder, it seems like he had a little bit of a down summer last year during the whole quarantine COVID era. What does that mean on the high school level? I don't know. But obviously by all accounts, he's really resumed his upward track this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, in the eyes of the evaluators, do they see the hit tool as not as big of a problem right now versus maybe the lagging indicators that we have from what happened to him last year? I mean, how much of that is still living in our minds? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. And you never know. I mean, we might start seeing updates that like, yeah, he's just a 50, 55 hitter, or 60 hitter even. And if the Tigers think he's a 60 hitter with 60 power, then yes, by all means take him. Or I guess it would be 70 power. I don't know. It'll be exciting. And that's one of the things like, so my plans.
I'm still all in on Meyer. I'll tell you. I would love that happen. I want that left-handed bat. He looks like a smooth athlete. The in-game power started to show up a little bit earlier this season. Love it.
Yeah. No, and that's we touched on it. We're gonna try to turn June into kind of draft month, although it is a bit odd to do that and then have another week or 10 days until the actual draft. But I kind of wanted to kick it off with a mock draft that we all do, where basically we get assigned teams and we go through and try to make the decisions of what they'll think. Just starting off, and then throughout the course of the month, we'll be doing player profiles, and then I want to do another mock right before the draft just to see, what we've learned, if that makes us more interested in the players. We'll switch up the teams, or whatever, but that's one thing. And I want to do some research on the Tigers history of drafting high school players in general. And all that good stuff. And maybe, and Raj, you asked for, and I like this because you like to dig into some guys and you found some interesting ones last year. So I don't know if you want like sleeper arms or guys that might fit more in that second round, whatever
give me some sleeper arms, maybe the second round. Okay. You know what? I'll debate about that, but I do like both of them. That's a tough decision to make right now off the top of my head. But yeah, definitely. I think there's some really good possibilities in the second round. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think we should do profiles for probably about 10 players who might go third overall. I mean, I think we're talking about 4 or 5, but who knows? Maybe Khalil Watson sneaks in there. Maybe Jackson Joe. Maybe Sal Frelick. We're not even talking about him. And then after that, it'll be interesting it'll be kind of more sleepers, not sleepers so much, but guys who we think they could go in that 30 to 40 range.
Oh, it's going to be very fun to see what they do at picks 32 and 39, and
Absolutely.
what money they save and run at pick 3, and how aggressive are they going to be with maybe a Jaden Hill or somebody like that.
Or if Mooney's on the board.
Yeah. I mean, we know that they scouted him. I mean, he lives close, so you would hope they'd scout him. I did get one question.
All right, sweet.
It said, how long before Willie Castro is in Toledo? It's from Shakesilla 86. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Look, I know that AJ Hinch recently said that he's got a longer leash, which I don't understand why he does, considering that Hinch likes good defense and he wants guys that are fundamentally sound, and Castro does not look fundamentally sound right now. But then you look down in AAA. Okay, so you have Paredes there, and somebody on Twitter earlier was like, he's not ready yet. I think Paredes is showing some extra base power. He had a triple tonight. He had a home run the other night. Either you go with Paredes along the lines. I know that even somebody asked if Adrian, is it the Gonzalez?
Yariel?
Yeah, Yariel. Yeah, is Yariel Gonzalez a dude? The answer is we do not know. I know that they signed him from the Cardinals organization. I think he was as close as he got to was Springfield, the AA system, and then he came up for the Tigers. He was starting in Erie, then he got up. He's got 5 home runs. He plays.
He's got 2 more in Erie too, so technically he has 7.
Yeah, so he has 7 home runs. He leads the entire system in home runs. He can play second base, third base, and I think first too, I believe as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a utility infielder. But I mean, if they're going to go with a guy on the 40-man or roster, Paredes might be the way to go. But then, like I said, is he? Somebody says, well, he can't play shortstop. Well, he has played shortstop before. He has played second. He's played third. He can play all over the infield. So it's just a matter of if he's not. If the Tigers thought he would be ready by now, I think they would have called him up, which is why I think Castro's got the longer leash. But at some point, I don't think he's going to last till mid-June. That's just me. That's just a guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that he's probably got another week or so. Not as you said, Isaac Paredes is starting to heat up. He's been hitting the ball, spraying it all over the field, which is usually what he does when he's actually, on a hot streak and hitting it to the right center field gap. And if he's going to hit, then I think they'll bring him up. They also have Zach Short if they want to do a shorter thing. No pun intended. Yeah. And Yariel Gonzalez, I think we can comfortably say he's not a dude, but he might be a guy who they give a look to at some point this year just to see. But yeah, I don't know. I think Willie Castro looked really good at the beginning of spring training and had that nice season last year, but this year has just been a dud for him, and it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. So did you hear any other questions this week?
That was the only one we got on Twitter that I see. Yeah, I don't know if anybody.
People, come on.
Yeah, if anybody here watching us live has a question that they want, then catch us now before we take off.
Oh, also, I forgot. I always forget to pimp this. We have an email, tigersSRD@gmail.com. You have questions. We had a question about Chris. What was that question we had about the Red Wings rebuild?
It was what was it? It was something about Moritz Seider. Why did Yzerman get yelled at for Mo Seider?
Yeah.
Here, Mo Shid. Why was Mo Seider pick deemed controversial by Steve I? Adam S.
I'll have to pass the question on to Jason on that because I have no earthly idea how to answer.
I vaguely remember that he wasn't considered like one of the top 5 players in the draft, and they took him with the top 5 pick, and so there you go. That's probably why it was controversial, but it's from all the sounds of it. It sounds like he's good. So I don't know. Good.
So what did you think of the Pirates play today?
Oh, well, I mean, you know what? I should pull that up because I think that's something that definitely I use the Yaki sax.
Yeah, the Benny Hill.
Yeah, the Benny Hill theme is a kind of a
Yeah.
I don't know. I was somebody made a request for it, so they were asking if it was possible. So, or something like somebody was like the internet needs to come through with this, and so let me find that. For anybody that's watching on YouTube, let me share the screen a little bit here.
Yeah, it's just really interesting how, and again, this was an extremely rare set of circumstances, right? But how they just didn't know the rule. They never had to try to get that runner out at home.
Yeah, it was one of it's something I've seen on a Little League. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it seems really bizarre. He could have crossed the plate. They could have just sat there for 10 minutes and then gone and tagged first base, and the run wouldn't have counted, right? It's so strange.
With 2 out, or for a runner to score, the runner cannot score if the batter runner has not reached first base, whether it's a tag or a force.
Yeah,
you make the call.
You make the call. Maybe that's the new segment. Well, it was funny that there was something happened earlier today. My son has been wanting to play, hit the ball out in the front yard, which is great news for me.
Yes.
But we weren't using a real ball, whatever. And he fouled the ball, and it popped right up and landed on his head. And it made me wonder, if that happens, what's the batter? The batter, I assume, is supposed to get out of the way, if he's in the batter's box. He pops it up in foul territory. But if he just stands his ground, what's the ruling there?
It'd be just a foul ball.
So if he fouls it up and it's right above his head and he doesn't move and the catcher can't get it, it's just a foul. It's not a interference of any capacity.
Okay. How high was it? I'm sorry. I guess that's.
Oh, wait, just my son. It was 5 feet, 10 feet in the air, but it was it wasn't anything. It's curious. I would think in this situation, it wouldn't be like a sky high pop up. It would just be something that was short enough that he could.
Yeah. If it's just a little quick thing, if it hits the batter, it's a foul ball. But if it was a high pop up that was right there, then they would have to get out of the catcher's way. Or it would be interference. Yes.
Gotcha. All right. I figured as much, but I was just like, I wonder what the ruling is there. If you could just stand there and knock the ball out of the air.
You made the call. All right.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
We're out here. Thanks so much for listening to Tigers SRD. There'll be a Ray Riviera batting breakdown. I'm going to break down. He said he changed his swing, and he was named the High A Central Batter of the Week last week, along with Bo Brisky, who was named the Pitcher of the Week. So I'm going to break that down, and we'll be doing that tomorrow. I know, Chris, if you want to join me for that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. It'd be definitely interesting. And I still remember when Lance Parrish, we asked him specifically, and he said, if he doesn't stop hitting off his front foot, he's not going to make it to high A. And this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like was going to happen. And I don't know. He's hitting the ball. I would consider it a moderate triumph if he hits his way to Double A, because I didn't think, after he was playing poorly and then got suspended for PEDs, I think.
Yep.
Or I don't know if it was PED or a substance of abuse or whatever, but yeah.
PEDs, yeah.
I thought he was basically done for, but he's here in High A now, and he's hitting well enough that maybe he can get boosted up to Double A soon. So
yeah,
it's one of those positive stories in a minor league system that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be the majors. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to clear that up once and for all. I mean, if it's end up being a dude, we'll be all shocked. So until next week, we'll be back. It'll be June. I can't believe it's already gonna be June. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Hopefully, for everybody who served, we appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.